Get ready to be triggered. I've got a good one for you this week. I need to pretend like I can talk Italian. Laureal Sauro. Gustoso. I don't think anybody's going to notice I just said that wrong. Yeah, so Cracker at Hyder Park says, hi. I like it. It's good. And just like that, everyone forwards to the last part. Hey everybody, how's it going? So thanks for coming along to episode number 7 of Grosvenor Gardens. We are back in Planet Coaster, we're building our realistic theme park, and we're ripping off Gardaland in the process and loving it. And in fact, you guys are loving it too. So many new faces, so much support. Thank you all so much for coming along. If you are new here, please make yourselves welcome. Come on in, sit down, grab a coffee, and introduce yourselves to the absolute best community you are ever going to be a part of. So guys, thank you so much from the bottom of my heart for all of the support. This is what we're doing in the last episode. We were building a B&M dive machine. We were taking on Griffin and Shikra and all of the greats, and this is what we came up with. And also building pirates. So stucco pirates, in fact, not even wood pirates, stucco pirate. And we're also making a mess of the terrain in the background whilst you can see that. Now, unpopular opinions come back and bite you in the backside, don't they? Look what we've got. We've got ourselves a Mack Multi Launch. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. So I've had to do a little bit of soul searching and a little bit of thinking about the lore of this area, because I have sort of like stuck this on the side of the hill in the hope that it all works. It does. It's come together quite nicely, but I've had to do some like storyline thinking with this one, because the B&M coaster would probably be newer than the Mack Launch coaster. So what I'm saying here is that the B&M coaster would have been installed around about 2015, and the Mack Multi Launch would have been put in around about 2012, 2013, just after Mack installed the San Diego one. I think it's called Manta. So what you're going to be finding on this one is, on this coaster here, is that it's going to be using a lot of the design principles from Manta, but also a lot of the stuff that would have been up and coming for Icon. We're not going to be entering the territory in the realms of Hurricane. It's just asking too much for a park like this. Remembering that the profile of coaster that we have at the moment is the STC over here, the Pioneer, and a B&M dive coaster. So we're sort of mid-level coasters here. We're not dealing with absolute thrill machines just yet. Watch this space. So this is how it's sitting then in the profile of this part of the park. I like how this is sitting, actually. It's just a mess of track. When I worked for Merlin, we didn't have any Mack coasters in the portfolio. Whether or not Exodus at Thorpe Park is going to be, it's up for debate. So my knowledge on this is actually quite limited. I've had to do quite a lot of research, and I'm hoping it's all going to have paid off. I'm no expert in this one at all, but they are snaky little coasters. They snake their way through everything, as you can see. They feature a lot of overbanked and tight curves and a lot of high speed curves, and I particularly, where is it, this bit here, this snake curve, I absolutely love the profiling of it. It's just so long and snaky and windy. It's just yeah, it's turned out a lot better than I thought it was going to as a layout. I've only done one smoothing part on this, by the way, so if you're looking at this right now thinking it was not very smooth, it's because you're right, it's not. I just did a smoothing pass to make sure that it was all okay in terms of riding okay and stuff, and I'm going to do some more to it. So we are here in the station, and because we are right flush against the hill, we're a little bit limited to space. So we've got queue lines and stuff that are happening underneath the station, and then it comes out this way underneath the track. We're actually using a little bit of inspiration from the Smiler for how many times we go underneath the track. Going to need some path covers and stuff, but the queue line anyway comes out here. And out this way. Of course, we're going to have fast pass, even though I haven't actually put any info points in the park yet, so people can't buy fast passes even if they wanted to. It's fine. And then I've got maintenance area that's sitting here. It's going up the hill at the moment, but I think I'm going to reprofile it because this is quite steep. So I think I'm actually going to bring the road up around this way a little bit more. I need to do some terrain work and stuff to make this work. So we're going to come around the first corner here. And then we are going to enter into, I think this is going to be okay. it's going to enter into a holding brake here, remembering that you should always let your train clear the bend, otherwise you're going to be launching the back row from a bend. It's going to be quite painful. And then we're going to launch at this one, so this way. So it's only going to be 45 mile an hour. This is not a fast launch, and I've done that by design. Again, this is using Manta as a bit of inspiration. That's only 43 mile an hour. It's a really, really slow coaster in terms of current day Mack. So anyway, we go into an airtime hill, and then we're going to come around the first bend and then into our first overbank turn, sort of like high speed overbank. And I wanted this to be a feature of this part of the hill. I wanted you to be able to walk down this part of the hill and just be greeted by one turn. So you're just going to get greeted by this train that's just going to appear out of nowhere like this. And as you're going past, yes, I think I might overbank this slightly more. I don't know if I'm going to take it to a full 90. It's okay as it is here, but see how it rides. Then we come into an airtime hill, and then I wanted it to snake around this part of its course, so over the top of the launch, and then it's going to enter into a 0G roll. And then a heart-lined 0G roll at that. Look. Ooh. Actual heart-lining on a coaster, guys. Imagine. And then we're going to come into a turnaround, or almost like a helix, into another airtime hill, and then it's going to come around into an overbank turn, and then into the second launch. So it launches this way, and then comes into an Immelmann. Now this Immelmann is specifically profiled. It's not quite the Immelmann shape that you would normally see. It borrows quite a lot from the B&M style Immelmanns actually, but it's because you're entering straight into a snake path here. So for that reason, you have to profile your Immelmann in a very specific way. I've actually checked this out on the Mack design documents, because it has to level out and then it has to come back into a banking again. You can't continue it banked this way, and so for that reason you have to have this bit at the top here profiled in a very specific way. You don't really see it that often, but it happens. So anyway, it comes into this wave turn. In fact, there's a lot of wave turns coming up. Forgive the terminology, I don't actually know what they're called. I'm going to call them wave turns and snaky turns and all sorts of passes going on. So it comes into this wave turn, comes around into this one here, like a U-turn if you like, and then this snake, and then back up into this one. This ends up as a bit of a oh, here we go, there's a train's coming. Ta-da! So it ends up being a bit of an airtime hill actually, and I think the game might count that as an inversion because it's slightly beyond 90 degrees. And then it comes into another snake, and then into another helix, another airtime hill, and then its final two runs, and then into the brake run. So this is actually probably one of the better timed coasters in the park. It's only 30 seconds per dispatch, which is probably about right. You could probably dispatch one of these trains in 30 seconds on a busy day if you were so inclined as a park. So that's working quite nicely. Maintenance area then is sitting right here. It's going to be hidden away from the actual main queue and the main line. And then we're going to have transfer track. Transfer tracks, by the way, they don't have to be on completely flat land, as long as you're able to support it here and support it here, and it's safe to do so, as in it's going to hold the weight, then you're absolutely fine. It doesn't have to be completely flat like you see. So this is going to be an interesting build, because most of it is on the side of a hill, and we're going to need to use the hill to our advantage. So now that I have bored you to death with the intro, I reckon let's carry on and cut to the middle bit. Wonder what my controversial opinion's going to be this week. Oh, and it's a good one this week. Iron Gwazi, assuming it's ever going to open to the public, is just like that lazy kid who couldn't even be bothered to do his own homework and just copies someone better. And people believe it's their own work. Iron Gwazi is literally the second-rate Steel Vengeance. Consider yourself triggered. You're welcome. Okay, so this update has got a lot of decoration and stuff that's going on in here. Before I go into any of that, can we just talk about this hill for a moment? Because it feels like nobody's pulled me up on this yet, and I need to talk about the engineering that's going behind this, because there is some research and there is some logic. So as you can see, this hill is going to be carrying quite a lot of weight, especially coming from the flume ride. Now, just to address this, a lot of the weight is actually centered away from the center of the gravity of the hill, the central point of the hill, so it's all like this side, which is where the water and everything is. So there's not actually as much weight as you may imagine. However, it is still carrying a building, it's still carrying some water, it's carrying a lot of steel, etc, etc. And as you can see here, we now have very much a sheer hill face that's coming along here. So doing some research in how this would actually happen in real life, it would be buried underneath the hill, so you wouldn't be able to see it, but it would be sheet piles. You know, the stuff that they use on river quays or harbour quays, side of the roads to keep the bank up and everything. So they would actually be buried underneath the hill, and they would be creating some kind of a retaining wall that, and you can see I'm starting to do it here, right? It would be creating a retaining wall that's then coming all the way around this way, and it would come underneath here, and this would be the retaining wall, and then it would probably come out this way as well, so that it doesn't actually slip down. And these walls are ridiculously strong. They can hold just ridiculous amounts. If you think that these sheet pile walls, they would be used when they're putting in foundations for bridges, so they would be able to keep water out. That's how strong they are. So this would be no task for that whatsoever. So anyway, I just wanted to cover that off because nobody's noticed it yet, but I know that somebody out there is going to call me on it. So we've got sheet piles. I just haven't put them in because, you know, they're buried anyway, so what's the point? I could make a point of them. In fact, let me know. Do you want me to put them in? Do you want them to be visible along here, or should we just keep them buried? Let me know. Anyway, onto the decoration. I like how this coaster is actually quite low to the ground, and I quite like how it is buried in amongst the hill. Like, it doesn't look so foreboding. It's quite tame, but it's not tame in any way, shape or form. We're going for the wood pirate in this one, so everything else is stucco pirate. I wanted to go for wood pirate, but what I found is this is starting to feel a little bit western rather than pirate, so I need to sort of back myself out of a corner here. So I'm just like put the skull and crossbones in. It's pirate. Put a pirate flag up and call it pirate. But anyway, what I'm going for here is almost like a blacksmith style building, and I wanted the wood to be put up. I didn't want to use the western wood. I use that quite a lot. I wanted to use a different wood, so this is why I'm using this one here. And I wanted to have it a little bit two-tiered. I wanted to have a bit more shape to the building. So this is what I've done. And I've hidden the maintenance area behind the exit path. So I've actually taken the inspiration of this from the Dragon at Legoland Windsor. In fact, there's loads of coasters that do it right. It's not exclusively to that coaster, but that's where I got the idea from, and how I got the layout. So yeah, it's hidden behind the exit path in here. So I've just done some detailing and stuff that you would find in a Mack warehouse. Very similar to all of the other warehouses, actually, as it turns out. There's not really a lot that you can really talk about. There's no real specialist equipment that you would need or anything like that. You just need the access to be able to collapse the trains. Now, because of the very unique position on the side of the hill, we don't really have a lot of room for massive areas like work areas. So what you would do is you would have the train that comes into this way and then comes into the maintenance shed, and it would be brought right to the end, and they would then collapse them car by car and then onto the back of the lorry that way. But they wouldn't use massive lorries like they would do the other coasters, because you couldn't get it down a hill. So you'd probably have maybe multiple trips, or you may actually do the servicing within this maintenance shed. You might not actually take it to a central location. So that's just something there just to bear in mind. Then I've also got the maintenance track on here, and I have done some research. Your transfer tracks don't have to be perfectly straight. They can have this little kink in it. So because we're dealing with a very tight space, I've actually decided to have a kink. As long as you've got room for the entire track to move, your actual track can be any shape whatsoever. It's just you tend to see them as being straight. You tend to be, yeah, they just tend to be in line with the station and everything, but they don't have to be. And this is one of those instances of, just because you've never seen it before doesn't mean it's not real. Because with this one, it's very much about the art of the possible. What's possible with this type of coaster? So that's what we're going for here. Inside the station, I've just started to put the pirate stuff in here. You know, it's very loosely pirate themed and whatever. It's just, it is what it is, right? It's going to be just like the other coaster. I'm not going to go all out on the pirate stuff, but I'm going to need to go all out on the pirate stuff to make it obvious it's pirate and not Western. And then we're going to come down this way into the photo shop. I like how this is positioned, actually. So I've actually decided to extend the toilet building, so it's now in a bit of a cross shape. It just felt like that was the natural thing to do, especially as the exit path was coming down this way. So it just felt like that was what was needed. Let me just change my camera. There we go. Actually, that's just locked itself. Whatever. Come on, move away. There we go. God, every episode. I can't go an episode without ruining the camera. It's become synonymous. Hey, are you watching a Chatter episode? Yeah, he's ruined the camera. So, photo stuff. I've actually done a slightly different setup in here. I've made this longer, actually. I've made this longer than I normally would. So normally I'd make them 8 meters wide, and this is 16, I think, maybe even 20. But it just gives me a little bit of extra space to play with in here, and a little bit of more decoration space. Started to get a feel for how I want the area, so I've started to put the flooring down, but not completely put the flooring down. I'm just like getting a feel for this area. And then I just started to put some more decoration and kitting it out and whatever. So this is looking good. You have also probably spotted that there's custom supporting going on. We need to talk about this as well. So the custom supporting in various areas is fairly obvious, right? So custom supporting here with the Immelman, custom supporting here on the bend because you've got the path underneath, then a bit of custom supporting going along here. Now there's 2 areas that I want to particularly draw out, and again this is based on research, so I know that this is true and this is exactly how it would be. First off, you've got supports that are on a bridge. So your first instance there going, hang on a minute, how is that bridge going to support that weight? You'll be surprised at how strong you can make bridges. And if you have a look at the Cobra roll of Colossus, you'll notice that the supports are actually on a bridge. So it's perfectly fine. And you're not dealing with a high impact part of the track here necessarily. I mean, there are parts of the track that are higher impact. Oh, look at that timing. See? I can't do a camera, but I can do perfect timing. So you're not dealing with too much force and too much weight going on here, so you're okay in this instance. And then of course you've got the supports on the pathing. I just like it. I just like being able to walk through the middle of the support, so I've done this deliberately. I could have made an effort to hide it or bring the path in a different way, but no, I quite like the idea of bringing it through. And then the other one, it's on this 0G roll, so you would have them typically, these supports, you'd have them typically at the 90-degree point, and then because it's in an arch, it would support its own weight. This one's a little bit more difficult to do because the first opportunity I have to really do a support is in this kind of area, and then the next opportunity is past the station. You've got too much here that's unsupported. You couldn't make this unsupported, so what I've had to do is put a support through the station, and this is actually quite common. So if you look at the Smiler, for example, Alton Towers, you walk through the gift shop and it's just a festival of pillars, festival of them. So you know, there are coasters out there that use the pillars inside the station, so that's what I've done. I've actually driven this this support all the way down into the ground, and then I've just lined it up with the queue line. So it's not actually interfering with the queue line, but it's just a bit unsightly in the main station. But you know, you have to support your coaster somewhere. It just has to be done. So you have no real choice. And then over on the launch section, I've just put in some more pirate stuff. You know, I think I've overused this boat technique. This idea of the boat being smashed up and you're going through it, because I may have done it there. I may have done it there. And I may have also done it there. Oh, I've gotten rid of the... I wonder where that's gone. I need to put that back. And I may have done it in the middle here. So, yeah, I've overused it, but I'm not even sorry. It's fine. And then the last thing, just to show you, there's nothing, like, particularly to show you here, but of course it's going to have a shed. Of course it's going to. But now that we've got a train that's leaving, I've actually triggered... there you go. I've triggered some of the effects, so the smoke comes up, and then as the train leaves, I've triggered a second smoke to come out, so it actually looks like the smoke is being drawn out of the shed. It's something that I quite like to do when it comes to realism of particle effects and stuff, so I just wanted to make sure that was in place. There's other effects and stuff I need to put in, but that's the first thing that I wanted to do. Last thing to show you in this update then is just starting the terrain work. So you'll see around all of this area that I've started the terrain and the hill. I don't think I'm going to get this finished in this episode because I want to go on to the next episode where we start building this area, because that's going to dictate the shape of the hill. But the one thing that I will show you is this little trick. So you would have seen other YouTubers using this, and it's the flat ride trick, where you have the flat ride set to about 6 degrees and then you can run your pathway, your direction, your route, if you like, down a hill, and then you just change your terrain around that, and then it gives you a smooth upward hill gradient. You can then follow your path around, and it gives you a bit more realism. Let me know, by the way, in the comments if you actually want a tutorial on the terrain and how to do that, because I think that would be a good topic to talk about. So let me know. I think I'm probably just going to do it, but let me know. Give me the thumbs up. Yes, you'll watch that. Anyway, I'm going to carry on because it's nearly done. So it's time to actually get it done. See you in a minute. Alright, so the Done For Now stamp is coming out, and I'll go through why it's for now in a moment. But first, we've got a story for you, so gather around, get yourself comfy. We have a name. It's Sheila. And I've actually checked that pronunciation out with an actual Italian. And it's suggested by Oracle R6 originally, but the wrong spelling but the correct story. But then Sheldon Man 14 came along with the correct spelling with the same entry. So what I've done is I've combined the two and called that the winner, and we're going to use the correct spelling for it, so you both get the credit on that one. Thank you guys for your submission. It is the perfect name and the perfect winner. Like, it was an outright winner, so there's no question of that whatsoever. And we are now starting to come together quite nicely with this sightline. This sightline has been in design since I did the flume, and before that. This is the exact sightline I wanted when I've been doing all of the terrain work and bringing it down the hill and everything. And what I wanted to achieve here is that this is a pirate area that would be on some kind of an island, and this is the rock work and everything for that island. So I'm almost like double backing the theme and using the theme on itself. And now that the trees and everything are in, it actually fits absolutely perfectly. It just does exactly as I wanted it to do. And then from the top, you can see that I've put lots of trees and foliage in along this area here, and that's mainly to hide the concrete, but also to bind the land together. We were talking in the last update about the strategy we would have for the weight and everything of this ride. The trees would absolutely help with that. And then in terms of terrain, I was also showing you the technique that I was using for the path, and this is how it turns out. So this is the exact technique that I've used. Of course, this is nowhere near done. This is just placing it down as a placeholder so I know where the path is going to go in the future. And because I had too much of a gradient to bring the path around this way, I've actually ended up having to make a U-E down this way and then bringing it up the hill. So I'm happy with how that's turning out for now, and like I say, future episodes will come up here and finish what's going on in this area and bring the railway around and stuff. Now, the reason this is for now is because in the next episode, I want to do a smaller build, and I want that build to be in this kind of area here. I've got a couple of ideas. I've got a busy week at work next week, so I need to cut down the amount of time that I'm actually doing for build. So I want to do a smaller build in here that's going to finish off this pirate area, bring the area around this way, make sense of this disco. So that's what I'm going to do next week. That's why it's for now, because this pirate area isn't quite done. But it's looking so good. I was a little bit about it in the last episode. I was happy with how the build itself turned out. I wasn't happy with the area. Now I'm happy with the area. This is exactly as I wanted it to be. It sits on the sight line absolutely perfectly, and even from the top, even from the front of the park where we keep coming back to, it disappears. It's gone. You can't see it, so it's like a hidden gem of the park. It's perfect. I absolutely love it. From this sight line down here, you get an awesome view of the first bit, and then round. Are we about to launch? No, we're not. I think that's actually the dive coaster in the background, and then the first turnaround is just, it's perfect, because you're like, oh, where did that coaster come from? It's like just popped out of nowhere. And then around this way, I've started to, I finished all of the detailing and stuff. Now this fence here, this isn't going to be the first time you're going to see this in the coming episodes. I'm actually using this for something I'm doing outside of Grosvenor Gardens. So this is the first time you're seeing it in sequence, but this isn't the first time I've used it, because the episode that's of something that's coming out in the future preceded this by quite some months. But anyway, you'll see. The fence is not going to be a surprise, but yeah. But I love how this whole thing now sits on the profile of the park. It's not very tall. It's really windy. It's really twisty, and it interacts with the path perfectly. I absolutely love how this bridge has turned out. It's just like the perfect funnel point where people are going to walk through. It reminds me of Colossus, actually. If I'm honest, I've got a lot of Colossus vibes going on to it. What I've done in the second launch is I've just done some really light theming. It felt like the park would have made a little bit of a minimal effort to actually put some kind of theming in here. It is just a concrete pit with retaining walls. I mean, it's nothing particularly special, but I have just put some mist and everything under the bridge. It felt like that was going to be a missed opportunity if I didn't do that. So yeah, that's what I've done. That's what I've done there. And then in terms of the actual queue line and stuff as well, I've copied across all of the pathing that I'm using. You know, the stone pathing, and then because it's a little bit difficult to work with, I've put the mulch down just to hide the edges of the path, so it actually makes a little bit of sense. And then use lots of foliage and trees and stuff to hide all of those joins. You've seen me do this before a million times. There's a top tips episode if you want to know how to do it. So that's all available around there. I've done some smoothing of the coaster. A little bit of profiling of this last bend. I wasn't entirely happy with the last bend. It felt like it was a bit of a lazy autocomplete job. So I've actually just come along and reprofiled it slightly, and it's now riding much better. In the station itself, I have done a lot of overgrowth in this area. It felt like this. Whoops, that's a tree. It felt like that would be the least bit that would be maintained, because you can't really get to it, and it doesn't need to be maintained because as long as the transfer track goes over the top of whatever's overgrown, then you're actually okay. You don't need to access this bit in here. And then the station, I've just finished off the TMTK and the final pass of the decoration, but as I said in the last update, I really wanted to keep this quite sort of like clean and quite uncluttered. I didn't really want to go for a heavy theme as such, because I wanted the building to do the talking more than anything. So that's what I've done. I've touched up this area. The roof obviously is now on. We've got the overhang going on. This is now pretty much looking as I wanted it to look, and especially now with the maintenance area sitting on the side, I've basically copied the opposite way of doing the dive coaster, in the sense that this is now beside it. And then inside here, I've just done a little bit of touching up. It needed a bit of tidying up, as it turned out. There was a few things that weren't quite in the right place. There was a few things that had gone a little bit astray, so I think it still needs a little bit of tidying up, but I'll add that to the list of area stuff that's going on. In terms of the actual launch then, this is just really thrown together. It felt like the park would have made some kind of effort with the decor inside the launch bit. Whew. There you go. And I've got a cannon then that shoots you out of the door. Of course you have. Why would you not? And then just inside here, I just put loads of clutter and just loads of stuff. It just felt like it was part of the story, you know, like this underneath the boat, or what, I don't know what the park would have done, but they would have made some rubbish, crappy story to go with it. And then because it looked a little bit bland and a bit barren, I've actually put some smoke in here, like the steam and everything that would give a bit of ambience. And actually it looks all right. It's not hideous. It does what it needs to do. But what I have had to do is put some of the facilities that would be running this shed underneath the shed, so it would have some kind of a service area underneath. I'm two minds about these propane tanks. I don't think they would actually be propane tanks. I think they would be other forms of tanks, and that the facility to deal with the fire and stuff that's in here would actually be elsewhere. And that you wouldn't necessarily put them here because of the explosion risk. Like if it went up whilst the train was going past, or the train caused a spark or whatever, then this is probably a bit too close. So this is why this is not a propane tank, despite the fact that I've used a propane tank. This would actually be piped in from elsewhere. This is supposed to be representing something else, something like water for the steamers and stuff. This is not actually for gas. So that's what I'm trying to say in not a very succinct way. And so yeah, then we've just got the first parts of the turnaround and whatever, and now it's interacting perfectly with the terrain. And the train is now exactly as I wanted it, especially from like this area. It's just perfectly hidden, perfectly what it needs to do. And then the area down this way is just so nicely, because everything goes on behind these buildings. So the idea is that this monster is raging around, and you can hear the screams and stuff, but they're all behind buildings. And it's a technique that I love using. I did it on Kraken in Chachalandia, where the idea of the launch was supposed to be that it was the noise of the Kraken. So when you're in the queue, that's all you could hear was the noise of the launch. So I'm going for that feel here is that all of the screams and stuff will be coming from behind the buildings, so it does kind of have a story. I put all the missing stuff back in here. Don't know what I did, must have just deleted it as I was putting stuff through, and then made sense of the pathway. So I wanted this area here to be a bit of a plaza, and I wanted it to be a little bit wider because this is going to be a convergence point between 3 areas of the park. We're going to be able to come round this way to what I'm going to talk about for the next episode, and then we're going to come back this way, which is going to take us back up to what will eventually be the wooden coaster, or we can go this way and go back towards the dive coaster. But from this whole area you get some really awesome views of the dive coaster, and what will be behind it as well. There's going to be some other sightline stuff. Ignore the terrain and everything on the background, but have a look at the view of the coaster from here again. I'm so pleased with how this has turned out, and it's so much like Icon, and it's so much like Manta. It was Manta, wasn't it? Yeah, Manta. And I'm really chuffed with how this has turned out. I thought it was going to be a bit of a waste of an episode because it was a multi-launch, and it's no, I'm pleased. I'm sold. Icon, I take it back. So next episode then, as I said, I'm going to put a ride in here. I don't want to do too many spoilers, obviously, because I want you to come back next week, please. But it's going to be a dark ride that's going to be situated into the hill. And it's a thing that Gardaland does really well, so I want to integrate this into the park. And then that also gives me some scope to start doing the terrain and preparing what's going to come in this area. So this is it from the top. Let me just get a better, more cohesive angle. There you go. So this is it from the top. We have ourselves a Mack Multi Launch coaster, and guys, thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. You know I absolutely love it when you guys show support, so please leave a like, leave a comment. Absolutely love chatting to you. Come over to the community tab and say hi. I put periodic polls and stuff in, so it's good to come and say hello and have a chat. But of course, please come back next week. Please look after yourselves until we speak again. Bye bye.